This is Ed in San Diego, and you're on Global TV Talk Show. Our very special guest today is Heather de Cruz Cornier. Did I pronounce that right?
Well done. Perfect. Yeah. You speak French and you speak Portuguese.
I don't know what I'm doing, but thank you. You're so kind. Welcome to the show, and we're here to talk about something really important, and the topic's been around forever, and so I'm going to give you the mic now, and you're going to do a much better job talking about the Permits Foundation and the REA research and what's new. Here's Heather.
Thank you, Ed, and Happy New Year. It's fantastic to be here.
Thank you.
Permits Foundation is a non-governmental organization, an NGO, based in the Netherlands. It's been around for almost 20 years, and they have produced a significant and solid body of evidence around the dual career family space in global mobility.
Really important.
It's really important. I think a family focus is what we're seeing overall, along with the new focus directed on health and well-being in the workplace. And I think the pandemic has influenced and shaped all of our lives globally. And so Permits conducted their last survey was in 2022. And once again, they showed that it is the family experience on assignment that can make or break the experience, the whole experience for the whole family.
So I produce this kind of topic in meetings in Europe, in Paris, and Geneva, and London, and somewhere else, and also in New York and California, but it resonates in Europe, not so much here.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting because REA is a global US-based HR consultancy,
Right.
and they've been working in this landscape for the past 4 decades. They've done a great job. They've done really important work in advocacy and shaping the industry, if you will, for the service that's provided in terms of the support for families. And now that we see a new key workforce trend emerging in the shape of health and well-being, mental health, and we see that the focus is now more upon these needs rather than the fulfilling transactional needs. And of course, equal importance here. We have the transactional logistics of any move, which is extremely important. But then we also see these invisible needs, or what I like to do is call them needs that are hiding in plain sight. And I think that there are many hidden challenges, especially in the global mobility space. So anything that can shed light and illuminate some of those hidden challenges will bring a new perspective to focus on that is future focused and positive. And I feel that psychology and business psychology in particular has a role to play here. I think it's very important.
So one of my guest speakers in Washington and London and elsewhere has been an executive with the World Bank, Yvonne Kwa. She's now in a more senior role and has relocated, she and her husband, from the Washington area over to outside of Paris and working remotely from there. And so Yvonne has written a book called Dual Careers, whose job is it, yours,
Yeah.
mine, or ours?
Yeah.
And it's really a great book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she has spoken about it and will continue to speak about it on our programs. And she's now a trainer as, and still involved with the World Bank Family Network. As you know, World Bank has all these high-powered couples working for them, and they fit this situation absolutely to a T. And
That's
the
that's
problem
yeah,
still goes on. The problem
yeah.
goes, it's never ending.
I think what's important is particularly, well, for me, I am an expat spouse. And this is one of the reasons why I work in this arena with the psychology background that I have. Once you've been a spouse and once you've experienced expatriate shock, culture shock, and repatriation or re-entry shock, as it's called in the US, it stays with you forever. And so for me, it was very important after my experiences as an expatriate and as a dual career spouse that in some way or other, I do some advocacy work and work with this demographic and do my best to work with entities like Permits Foundation and try and make a difference and bring a more positive outcome to this situation. And with the new focus on DEI&B and inclusion and really shaping that global mobility value proposition, what I'm seeing is that there is definitely an opportunity here. There's potential here. And to move this forward, exactly as you say, we seem to be having the same conversations. I wrote my thesis 20 years ago when I did my master's degree on expat spouses living in Tokyo, Japan. And the discoveries that I found are actually still part of the discoveries that I found in my recent research project 2 decades later.
Yeah. So when I put on one of my meetings in Europe, one in particular at the world headquarters of Nestle in Vevey, Switzerland, this was pre-COVID. This was almost 10 years ago. The main topic was dual career situation. And they had a group of mostly ladies, not all ladies, but mostly. Um, and they came from all over Switzerland to speak and attend and talk about this issue. And of course, we had comp and ben people and legal aspects and psychologists. It was quite a day.
Yeah.
And
And
it
I
still
think,
is going to be a good day because everybody has a story and it's all different.
yeah, yeah. And it's about, well, for me, it's now expanding that context, expanding that focus, and looking at families on the move, what their needs are, and how health and well-being and resilience. So really the starting point for my research came from research trends that were taking shape during the pandemic from the Big Four and from quantitative research studies, mainly surveys that were being used to explore and identify the trends of remote working, what was happening during lockdown. So that was really the starting point. So we wanted to know, well, how is this affecting people who had just moved prior to the lockdown situation and who had recently moved or had been there for a while, but everything kind of stood still, as we know. So that was really the trigger point, these workforce trends. And the main focus or the main outcome of those trends and the data points were health and well-being, a new focus on the individual, and what companies can do in order to meet those needs, those new needs, and resilience from an organizational point of view. You know, what can we do as an organization to make sure in this turbulent economic climate of change, what can we do to batten down the hatches? What can we do to be agile and prepare for these world challenges or black swan events? And then resilience for the individual. So how can you increase productivity and motivation and engagement by ensuring you have a resilient workforce? So those were really the trigger points and the starting points for peace of mind on the move. How does that translate to global mobility and to people moving your talent around the world and making sure that these workforce trends and the feedback from global mobility informs your strategy and your practice, because it's such a vital part of business. So those were the trigger points, hence why we called the study Peace of Mind on the Move. What can we do to ensure peace of mind? I'm sure you'll agree, Ed, we all want peace of mind.
No doubt about it. Hey, you know what? it's ludicrous that there's even a discussion here. The companies want the talent. And the big issue back then was spouse work. Usually the spouse is high powered equally to the guy, and vice versa. And everybody has a career and a meaningfulness, but now with remoteness, there's a
Yep,
positive from the COVID is
yep,
that remote working is fine. It's
yep,
just be compliant
yep.
and
I
100% compliance
Yep,
everywhere, and you
yep,
solve all the problems.
yeah, I agree. And hybrid working, the new norm as people navigate change and adapt. Really, it's about adapting, isn't it? And building again that resilience, and then embedding any changes in a positive way. And I think one of the main things as well arising from the research is, what is the company or the global mobility's role in duty of care? Where are those obligations? And do they have a duty to care? And so the psychological contract, which is ever present, especially when you have major changes or disruptions, major disruptions to the workforce. One of the really, really enlightening aspects that emerged from this research was the emphasis on the psychological contract and whether there was a perceived breach or whether those needs were being met. Now, when the needs were being met, the families were thriving on assignment. They were absolutely thriving. There was a sense of buoyancy. There was a sense of positivity. There was a sense of feeling included in the whole of the mobility equation.
Teamwork
Teamwork,
and
exactly.
and logical rather than be frustrated with stupid
Yeah,
rules and restrictions. And
yeah,
it takes someone to be on assignment to understand that.
yeah,
And it's ludicrous that someone in charge of people in a wealthy organization doesn't understand that, doesn't get it. And they just got to get out of the way, or just be proactive. It's a duty to care, not duty of
yes.
care.
Absolutely. And there is a duty. And I believe that there is a shift. And the research, again, let's take one step back here again. So, most people, and in all the follow up meetings that we've done with our clients at REA, when we talk about research, people think about surveys, they think about a questionnaire that's been sent out with a Likert scale of 5 points, and you can come up with some form of symmetrical statistics at the end of it. And I think, from your own international experience, very often the experience isn't symmetrical, it's asymmetrical. And being able to access and understand that experience calls for an approach that accesses people's emotional experiences. And the way to do that is to take a qualitative, thick data approach. And this was championed by somebody called Trisha Wang, who's a statistician, who realized that hard data, which is brilliant if you're looking for a yes or no answer and you're looking to take a room temperature and to see a temperature check of how people are feeling about motivation and things like that. But if you want to have a deeper dive and if you want to really understand what's going on, the voice of that demographic really needs to be listened to. So the thick data approach that we took basically looked at the data trends coming out of hard data research and metrics, which was resilience, health and well-being, along those lines. And we took those trends and we designed a whole approach around that to access what people's real experiences are on assignment so that their voice could be heard and listened to. And what we found was that it really is what you measure may not be what is important, but it may be what is valuable. So it's not about whether something allows itself to be measured and you can use a linear ruler to say yes or no. It's about finding out what's in between, and it's about being able to understand the emotional experience of people on assignment. And I truly believe that if we did more of that, we would have the data from which companies could better understand why this hasn't changed and why we're still having the same conversations that we had 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Let me ask you about confidentiality, this issue. Some people don't want to share because the information is going to be twisted based upon somebody's somebody else's needs, and that and you know a lot of the issues have been, I don't know whether they still are, but have been women oriented, uh, you know, because of the restrictions on work that now has been mitigated by remote working and compliance. So there's no more issue with that. And then that reduces the temperature, if you will, the that the friction is should not be there anymore. Is that possible?
I think it is. I think it will be possible, and I think that the remote working options is going to be transformative. I really do believe that. I
Makes
think
sense. Yeah.
there's an enormous opportunity there. However, wherever someone works, especially in a dual career couple, where there's equal qualifications, equal earning potential, and they're equal assets, if you will. When one person accepts an assignment abroad, the shift of the power and the career, as you know, will be a joint decision, but the shift will be towards the assignee. So what can be done to help support the partner or the spouse that is moving with that person? And there will still be laws around where to tax the person if they're working remotely in that country, or do you tax them in the country of origin? So there will still be risks to compliance
Oh,
based upon, so I think we're in early days here with the compliance, and I do believe that there will be opportunities that could be a win-win. I think it will just take a little bit of time. For me, the issue has to be that the family is recognized as being part of the mobility equation and receiving whatever support is needed in order for an equity of that assignment and relationship to actually be taken heed of. And I think that when that happens, there could be significant change.
thank you. I want to ask you a related question. At least in my mind, it's related. So tell me if in your mind it's not related. But on a spouse move, okay, trailing spouse, accompanying, it's harder to say. So how does the role of this old thing, which is new again, employer of record or global employment company, whereby let's just say the woman in my life is the executive being moved and I'm trailing, right?
Yeah,
But I've got
yeah,
my own business, as you could
yeah,
see. I mean,
yeah,
I could be in Hawaii or
yeah,
Samoa and
yeah,
do this if I have good internet.
yeah,
But I have to be 100% compliant, and it has to be legal, set
yeah,
up, you know.
yeah,
So there's some kind of a combination whereby the employer of me, let's just say,
yeah,
uh, figures out or is told what to do appropriately
yeah,
so that I'm legal, and I can just carry on and my
yeah,
life goes on. It's just remote. That's all.
yeah,
And one
yeah,
thing that COVID has taught me is that, hey, I can do this. And if
yeah,
I can do it, certainly others can do it.
yeah. Absolutely. And we want you working everywhere you go, Ed. So yeah, we will we will make sure that that happens. Don't worry. We need the global talk show wherever you are. Yeah, you make a valid point. And there has been the emphasis on portable careers. We call them portable careers. We call them transferable careers. And there has always been the emphasis on that. So it is really about, okay, what career can I have that can be portable? How can I have a career in my suitcase? And there have been many, many books written about this, and there's lots of trainings about this. However, there are still many countries and many continents around the world that have restrictions on what a family looks like. Can a family have two men? Can a family have two women? What are the demographics? If the family isn't legally married, the partner won't be accepted. We still have situations like that in our emerging markets. So I think it's about what can we do as individuals if we're in that situation, and how can we inform ourselves and make informed decisions. But it's also about, where is the transparency of information? What am I walking into? Do I have a blindfold on because only the assignee has been given the information, and me as an equal family member hasn't been given that information? So I really see it as we're not moving in a vacuum. All of these things are creating the landscape for global mobility. And the sooner you can receive information about compliance, about what legal information I need in order to continue working, as soon as you can get that information, the better informed you are to make those decisions. So yeah, it's really about the transparency, communication, and embedding that, and having this health and well-being focus to build resilience in the couple or the family that's moving, so that they are well equipped to really thrive when they arrive.
I love this conversation. This is exciting, and it will be required for everybody in the industry and connected to HR and total rewards and cross-border business to watch the show once it gets out there tomorrow. So thank you for doing this with me. It's so clear and concise, and thank you for expressing it that way. And I thank REA. So let's go a little bit deeper about not geopolitics, although it touches, and not religions or what the view is about two people in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, it should be, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are you wasting your time for?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, okay, let's pay the tax, let's do this, do that, and leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my
Well, yeah, there's lots of different cultures and traditions around the world, and that's why it's important for companies like Permits, or NGOs like Permits, who are constantly out there lobbying all the different governments in Asia, in the United Arab Emirates, around the world, especially where, and South America, where you have emerging markets that are very exciting from an economic point of view for investment, but the environment to live in may be restrictive because of their norms that they have and because of the traditions that they have. So there has to be a balance between understanding what they are, and if there's no way to reconcile those differences, then it could be that an assignment may fail, or there may be an early repatriation, and all the money that's invested in that asset may actually be wasted.
Yeah. So
So
let me ask you about employment law. I know you're not an employment lawyer, but this certainly touches on, if let's say there's an assignment and something blows up in the relationship because of the tensions caused by these
yeah,
restrictions, is the company liable legally?
no, I would say, well,
You have
again,
to sign a contract.
we have the duty of care. We have the duty of care because the company is responsible for the employee, but you have the host company and you also have the company at origin. So it can be a little bit difficult. There can be blurred lines. At the same time, there is, as you know, a contract that is drawn up, and it's extremely transactional, it's extremely detailed, and all the finer points are covered in there. But what isn't covered in there, again, the psychological contract of expectations, as in the company will offer me some kind of support or will be on my side if something happens and I need that support. And we see very often in the work that we do at REA that that could be a little bit lacking, that there isn't a safety net, if you will. And so some mobile employees can feel a little bit hung out to dry without a support network and without feeling that they are being supported by the duty to care. And the psychological contract dictates that they feel the company does have a duty to care. So certainly having a conversation around where are the responsibilities, how far do they go, which borders are they crossing, do they cross the borders? So I think these are conversations that really are key. They're key to the success of the family and the assignment itself.
So let's talk about, if we can, and if you don't like it, just redirect me. let's um, let's talk about our younger selves, okay? And but knowing now what we know, and then putting it back there, uh, if possible. How would permits be done differently if we were starting permits today? I mean, if we could just summarize now everything that we've been discussing about and giving this perspective for the younger audience that we're going to have watching this thing starting tomorrow. And because they all want to go, I'm generalizing, younger people in the workforce, bright, educated techies, they want experience and they want it quick.
Yeah,
And they don't want to stay long if they don't like it. They're going to
absolutely.
change countries,
Yeah,
something else. And
yeah,
so permits, now, what does that mean and relevant to the youth
yeah.
generation coming up now, who's very aggressive? They're very smart. They're going to figure out a different way.
I think because permits, as I said, I advocate for permits, so I can't really speak on their behalf, only through the 10 years of ambassadorship that I've been affiliated with them. But what I can say is that when they started, the United Kingdom was the poster child of allowing equal rights for anybody coming in from a talent perspective to have the same visa to work over here. In the United Kingdom. And they now have, I believe, 36 countries. They have over 20 years gained access around the world in 36 different countries through lobbying, through all of the work that they've done in order to become a game changer for dual career families and couples. You're quite right. We now see a refocus on flexibility, choice, and remote working. These are the three words for me for 2024. Resilience, health, and well-being was 2023 moving forward now. And we have 4 generations in the workforce, and the predictions are that the millennials will make up 75% of the workforce as of next year.
I
So
want to
what
jump in and ask you to repeat those 3 new key words.
the three, oh, okay. So choice, choice, and remote working.
So that's it.
Those are the 3 future
I'm going to
trends
write this down.
for 2024. Flexibility, choice, and remote working. These are the top trends for 2024.
Okay, now let's talk about choice. Just keywords, key phrases, a sentence if you need to.
Yeah. Well, REA has a very productive relationship with VICA in global mobility, and they did some great work in 2022. They did a great piece of quantitative research, and what emerged from that was that choice is the great equalizer. And that is something that has really stayed with me. I think that is a very, very timely and very insightful factor that we can all learn from, especially when designing policy, when looking at strategy. How can we offer choice and flexibility? And it's not a once and done. We're not going to do once and done and tick boxes. We're going to figure out how to offer flexibility and choice to the workforce. And in terms of remote work, I think we're already seeing that there are demands, and I know Permits is seeing this too. There are demands for overseas assignments for the assignee to work remotely on assignment. So that begs the question of, well, if they're going to work remotely in the new country, why can't they do that job from their original location? So I do think that there are a lot of interesting questions to be asked. And I don't have the answers. This will all be emerging, over the next couple of years post-pandemic. But it's exciting. I think it's very exciting. I think these areas will no longer be hidden in plain sight. I do think that they are coming into the foreground now. And I think that that's something very positive.
Okay, this is cool. So thank you very much. So keywords for 2024 and the Gen Z and millennium are driving this flexibility and choice. Really, they should be taken together.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And remote working.
Yeah.
Now, this is like a layer cake, right? And
yeah.
Now this is on top, this frosting, right? And so, but it's loaded with vitamins, right?
I'm feeling hungry. Yeah. Yeah. I want that cake.
Okay,
yeah.
so what time is it there? It's almost time, it's almost happy hour where you are.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Cocktails.
All right, so let's talk about once again our friend at World Bank Family Network, Yvonne Kwa, author of the book "Whose Career Is It? Yours,
Yeah.
Mine, Ours,"
Yeah.
and all of that. So they're so insightful, just hitting the nail on the head, if you will, about just what it is and how people have adjusted or not. And it's very, very intelligent. It's personable, and the REA family, um, with you as the point person on this topic right now, it's like the Golden Globe TV show the other night, the Golden Globe Awards, and the imagined battle between Barbie and that guy Oppenheimer, and then some of these other shows, and the flexibility that the entertainment industry came up with to display that choice and diversity. I thought, I mean, it's some nonsense, of course, but I thought it was really well done, and because that's was relatable and entertaining at the same time. And so let's talk about permits and REA as we come to a close here. We could go on all day, but the audience may have other things to do. So I think we ought to summarize and see what the next step would be. And again, I invite you to come and talk about this issue April 23 in our London global meeting.
I'd love to. Yeah.
My host partner and facilitator is the Global Trade Bank, HSBC, and will be inside their world headquarters. I also want to say and announce now that if you wish, 2 days later, April 25, will be our first live event meeting in Paris in almost 6 years. And I'm now developing that. And our top sponsor in that is going to be a global company called AGS Worldwide, which is a relocation company with many divisions in 100 countries. So I'm really happy to have that support, but I have to put the show together. And so I welcome you to consider either showing up in Paris live or doing it remotely like this, either way, on April 25, as well as in person, April 23 in London. And if you and REA would like to do more with me in London by taking a table or taking some seats and inviting key clients of yours who may want to join the discussion in person. I think that would be really informative, and I think it would be a lot of fun.
Sounds great, Ed. Thank you very much.
I'll put that in writing to you. So once again, the key words, and we can adjust now if you want me to take other notes. I'm writing it all down here. Flex and choice and remote working, the pinnacle points, bright lights. But what is right underneath these highlights that need to have arrows pointing to these things? So what subsidiary thoughts or words or whatever concepts go into flex and choice?
Yeah. Well, I would say definitely, well, human connection. So I think with the development with generative AI and the movement forward with artificial intelligence and our world of work being transformed, on a day-to-day basis, what emerged certainly from the research was that having a human connection allocation between the machine working that we do is very, very important, because people are becoming more and more chained, if you will, to their laptops, their devices, their media, and that's great. And we all know the benefits of that. And particularly in global mobility, I think there is definitely a need to shine a light, if you will, on the human touch points. Where are the human touch points, and how can you create a value chain that incorporates both? You have efficiency and effectiveness, of course, we all need that, but we also need people to feel connected, and so that they feel like they belong.
Okay, this is really interesting. Touch points create a human value
Chain.
chain.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what does that mean in English?
What it means is that we are human beings, and as we move more and more to a world that is driven and developed by artificial intelligence, we may need consciously to include these touch points, because sometimes, for instance, I'll give you an example with relocation. So in the research that we did, we found that people found moving more like doing online shopping. And that shouldn't be how a relocation is experienced. A relocation should not be experienced as somebody picking a menu of items as if they were picking a pizza with different toppings. So if some of them hadn't even had any human connection at all, they hadn't spoken to anyone, everything was done remotely via email or via a dashboard. So as great as it is that that creates efficiencies, and we all want efficiencies because we need to build in those efficiencies and cost savings, that's just as important for a business to do well. We also need to ensure that we remember that we are people, and we are part of a workforce that needs a social connection. So having some human touch points, potentially for 5 minutes, a phone call for 5 minutes, or a video call for 5 minutes, where someone actually, you hear a voice, and you're not just ticking menu items. So I hope that's a clear enough example. So
It's perfect.
embedding some of those human touch points so that people can, yes, interact with their machines, but also know that behind it there is a human connection. So human connection was the biggest outcome coming from the research that I did, that underpinned the lack of psychological contract or the potential for breaches. So that's what happens when you do this type of study. You can really go deep into what it is. What is it? What are the psychological driving points behind all of these things? So I think for me that would be definitely what would be the shining light on those trends that
So
you asked
yesterday,
for.
over the weekend, well, I'm just writing this down, psychological driving points. Okay. Yesterday online, somebody posted, I forget from where, I think it was from England, somebody involved in relocation and HR posted this long thing on LinkedIn about the, I'm just going to misquote, and I'm not going to name names, but maybe it'll spring to mind because it was quite poignant. She wrote about the dark days of winter, particularly in the UK. It gets dark early and cold and lousy weather. And she said a lot of people are experiencing depression and, fancy words, mental health issues. We all have them every day. Matter. Okay, but some people are not able to rise above that challenge. And it's a, she would talked in terms, my take was that she talked in terms of a negative spiral vortexing downward. And the closer you get to that V, the more danger there is to do something. So, but that thing that I just called stupid may not seem to be stupid to that victim. And people that we know, types of people that we know who are on assignment and maybe single or maybe in a lousy relationship because of the reload, exacerbating their personal issues, without counseling, without care, without a psychologist right there.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's a remote,
yeah,
like betterhelp.com, which is really right on for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm getting lost in my own thoughts here, but
no, but yeah, you're right. And we call it
it's
seasonal affective
a vicious
disorder.
cycle.
Yeah. And we had this, in fact, one of the, we had 34 participants in the study that we did, and one of them was in Norway. And there are some quotes in the study, and the quotes, because this is data, this is where we got the data from. And one of the reasons for some of the isolation felt was simply because of the environment and the climate and the conditions, coming from, say, LA, and then living in Scandinavia. You can imagine it's not just culture shock anymore, it's a physiological shock, and the body can start to shut down. So I think we are holistically, we are all different shapes and forms, and that's what makes us human. All of these different things, and for some people it will be extremely important, and for other people it won't be that important. So each person has a different need, and each person is unique, and the experience therefore is unique as well. And we can't just do tick box exercises in order to find a standard framework in order to categorize what experiences all of these people have on assignment, because that is not how it works. It just doesn't work like that. So you're thinking out of the box and looking at things from a different perspective, which is exactly what you've just said, is one of the things that people don't have time for. You just don't, especially if you're a global mobility professional, you just don't have time for that. So I think having these types of videos, having these conferences that you're exploring as well and that you're implementing, this is what can bring real insight. This is the real bottom up. This is the real deal, if you will. Let's bring everything that's hiding in plain sight. Let's uncover it. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Let's see what it is that's really going on, because otherwise we're going to keep having the same conversation year on year.
Heather, thank you.
You're welcome. It was so great to meet you, Ed, and thank you very much.
Come back again.
I will. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
I don't want it to end, but I think the audience will disappear. So have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.